All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Culinary Conversations, the workshop series. I'm Ryan Bolheis, Culinary Operations Manager for the Downtown Market Grand Rapids, and I'll be your host tonight. So for those of you who are new to Culinary Conversations is a collaborative effort between Start Garden, Grow, MSU Product Center, and the Downtown Market Grand Rapids. The goal of Culinary Conversations is to shine a light on the West Michigan food industry and also to help educate West Michigan food entrepreneurs. Tonight is actually the second of our virtual workshop series, Branding Your Food Business. And for tonight, we have a great guest speaker who's doing a presentation. Following the presentation will be a live Q&A. So please, throughout the presentation, please feel free to type in your questions right in the comments section of the YouTube video. And at the end of the presentation, during the Q&A portion, we'll try to address as many questions as we possibly can for you. With that said, joining us tonight is Bobby Claeys. Bobby, welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you for joining us. Bobby is a digital marketing specialist for Allegra Printing and Marketing. He's actually also the author of multiple children's books, which I actually found out only about 2 weeks ago, I think. And then also, what's great about Bobby joining us is Bobby himself is a food entrepreneur as the owner of Urban Pickle here in Grand Rapids. So again, welcome, Bobby. With that said, I will pass things off to you, sir, and your expertise.
Awesome. Thanks for the great intro. I appreciate that. All right, let me get this up and running. All right. As Ryan said, my name is Bobby Claeys. I'm digital marketing for Allegra Printing here in Grand Rapids. And Ryan wanted me to chime in here and kind of give my little expertise and background in branding and logo design and all that fun stuff. So with the time that we have here, I know that could be a lot and I can really dive into a lot of it, but really I want to kind of focus on three things today. First one being understanding the importance of your brand image. There's a lot of people out there that I know that, once you have a logo, think that once you have a logo out there, like that's it, you're done. That's all you need to do. But really, there's a lot more that goes into it from start to finish, and kind of want to dive more into that. Second one is creating your brand image, kind of helping you understand the processes that we on the digital and graphic design go through to kind of figure out the overall image that your new brand is looking for. So I kind of want to show you the steps into that. And thirdly, and probably most importantly, is implementing your new brand image. So once you kind of go through the whole process of figuring that out, what it is, what it looks like, the next step is going forward with it and really using it for everything you can properly. So why am I here talking to you guys about this? Well, I graduated from Michigan State University with graphic design over 11 years ago, which is now kind of just starting to hit me right now. So I have a little over 11 years of graphic design and marketing under my belt. During that time, I've helped a wide range of businesses, small, large, kind of help them find their own branding image, their own look and feel that really would only work perfectly with them. With that, I've like sports teams, ad agencies, food companies, you name it. I've worked with that kind of industry. So with the wide variety of that, they all are the same eventually, which is really coming up with a look that best suits them. And also with that, as Ryan said, I've just started creating my own pickle business. With that, I got to start beginning just like you guys did, trying to figure out exactly what my brand image is going to look like and what I wanted it to look like. So started straightly from scratch, worked my way through the whole process, and kind of talk about those key points as well too. So the first thing I want to talk about is the importance of brand image. Really, your brand image really is your introduction to your potential customer. It's the first thing that your potential customer will notice about you, whether they see it on a banner, your labels, social media, an ad, really anything. That is going to be the first thing and probably the last thing they will think about when they think about your company. So you want to make sure you have a great first impression that really grabs that target audience. Your logo and branding should tell the story of your brand as well too. I'll kind of go more in depth with my process of how I figured mine out, but really the whole process of finding your story for your company is really a lot easier than you think it is. It's really the story of you, and you want to be sure that your branding and logo tell that story properly. It's also the face of your company. Like I said, it's your first introduction to your customers, and it's really the face of your company. People are going to recognize your company logo more than they're going to recognize you. So it's very important that we find the perfect branding image for your company. As many of you probably can recognize these logos, you've seen them every day, probably for most of your lives. They're all recognizable without even showing the company name. That's mainly because, one, they are used everywhere and used efficiently and properly the same way for everything they do. And two, they are memorable and also unique. So that's what gives them that uniqueness and recognizability that they have. And that's something that's really important to think about when creating your logo and branding as well too. Now, creating your brand, that's, as someone that is starting their own business, starting from scratch, I have, just like you, a whole list of things that you need to accomplish to really get the ball rolling. And you have to kind of weigh out those lists of what's important, what's not. And creating your brand, I would have to say, is one of the more important tasks on that list. That's not really something that you can just put off to the side or not do at all. That is probably top three, if not the top, for you to conquer for sure. I know it can be difficult, but just like everything else on your list, it's going to take time, patience, probably more money. I know that, but it's like I said, it is really the face of your image. You're really constructing and paying for what your company looks like in the real world. So with that, you don't want to settle with any custom or any logo that you find online, a logo generator, something that you just made up in Word or Microsoft Paint, if that's still a thing. You don't want to just get it over with, get it done the cheapest way possible. You really want to spend the time and the effort in finding that true logo that really best represents your company. Like I said, with those other logos, those are all memorable, unique. You've seen them for like every day for your whole lives. So that's something that we really want to draw into your logo as well too. Make it memorable, make it unique. Don't settle with a logo that you find online that already exists, because that is not going to be any benefit for you. And focus on the specifics. What I mean by that is when you see a lot of logos, you kind of get an idea of what you like and what you don't like. And for me, that kind of got very overwhelming. I saw like logos that like with a cool font, cool texture, cool graphic, and all of a sudden, like now I'm just overwhelmed with ideas, and then realizing that a lot of them don't really fit for my company, for my image. So really focus on what is important for your company. Figure out, three top features that you really like: clean font, color palettes, shapes, circles, geometric. Really, just figure out the top three important things on that list and really try and focus on those, or else you're going to get extremely overwhelmed and make it more difficult to figure out exactly what that logo is going to look like. So kind of topping off that, kind of make it a little bit more simpler, a little bit more easier for yourself. Kind of focus on three questions to ask yourself when thinking about what do you want your brand image to look like. Why did you start the business? What was the process of coming up with, hey, I wanted to start a business in this specific feature or specific product, specific service? What made you draw to that? Like I said earlier, essentially the logo is not only just for the company, but I mean, you are part of the company. So your story and how that started really does go along with your marketing and your branding. Who is my audience? That's a really great question to kind of focus on. One that I really had to think about too for mine. Um, with all the different logo features that I saw, I had to really weed them out, thinking, well, that's not really towards that. A retro 80s look is not going to be good towards if your audience is mainly 80 or older. Really get to know your audience. Who are they? What are they like? What are they attracted to? What's going to draw them into your company, and let them know that your product is for them. And third is, why did you pick your business name? Obviously, you didn't just draw your name out of the hat. You put a lot of thought into it. I'm sure there's probably a story for it as well too, and really think about that story. Kind of dive deep into it and think, why did you create that name? And use that story to kind of come up with a logo idea for yourself. So for me, as I was kind of diving into it, it was got very difficult, very overwhelming, mainly because I'm my worst critique. So I really just kind of beat myself over it. But then I kind of focused on those three questions to come up with my own branding. Why did I start with a pickles company? Mainly because I grew cucumbers in our garden for 5+ years, and little by little, I would keep making pickles, a variety of different pickles. And each year, I kept making more and more, mainly because my friends and family were taking them, and eventually, I was just making or giving out too many. That production was getting too crazy out of my house, and that's why I started to kind of dive more into expanding the idea of selling pickles. With my pickles, I use clean, minimal amount of ingredients in my pickles, no preservatives. Really, it's only about 5 ingredients I put in that. So it's kind of a key focus that I wanted to really put into my branding. My audience, I thought about, obviously farmers market customers, since that's where I mainly sell my products. People looking for clean label, vegan, health nuts. I've realized are key audiences to my product. Pickles are, not fat, no sugar, a very healthy snack, really. And as I kind of asked more and more people about why they like my pickles, that was one of the reasons why, was the healthiness and the cleanness of the label. So I kind of kept that in mind as I was moving forward with designing my logo. And then the third is, why did I pick Urban Pickle? Well, it kind of ties in back to how my story began with my garden out back in Grand Rapids. So I thought, pretty simple. I made my pickles in the city, so Urban Pickle, and that's how I came up with it. And with all that tied into it, I kind of came up with the local concept of three colors, city Grand Rapids skyscape in the background, and little clean scripted kind of font on the front. So that was my process of getting to it. It seemed a lot simpler with me just going through it that way, but I understand that it's not really that simple, and it can be a little bit more challenging and time consuming than that. So if yours doesn't come that easily, don't beat yourself up. So it happens to everyone. It happened to me. So that's why it's always important to kind of figure out what you can accomplish with it. And if you can't get further than it, then that's when it's about time to find someone that has the experience of coming up with these brand ideas and creating a logo that best fits them. So with that, you have a couple options of creating your brand. You yourself can either do it. You can find a freelance designer to help you with that, or you can go to an agency. It really all depends on really your budget and what you feel comfortable with. If you went with yourself, obviously that's your cheapest route. That's the only thing that's going to cost is time, which I know is pretty valuable. But as in terms of money wise, that's going to be your cheapest option, obviously. Negative with that is it could look poorly if you don't have experience with graphic design. If you don't have the proper tools or proper experience with graphic design, then this can turn out not great. And I know you've probably, with shopping online, website, going out, you've seen your fair share of logos that just don't look that professional, and that can definitely deteriorate people if your logo is not up to their standards. So that could be a negative with that. And like I said, it does take up a lot of time if you don't have the experience with it. Well, a lot of people also don't realize is that with logos and branding, they come in different file sizes based on different uses. For web, for print, those are two different file options. If you want a white background, if you don't want a white background, different file types. Also, what they call a vector file, which is what a lot of print companies use for banners, apparel, all that fun stuff. That's a different file type. So if you're not really familiar with those file types or how to set them up, then that can also backfire in the long run if you do it yourself. So just little things like that is something to keep in mind if you're trying to tackle this yourself. Your other option is finding a freelance graphic designer. It is cheaper than an agency, or it should be at least. You can find a freelance graphic designer. There's quite a few online platforms that are great for finding these. One of them is Upwork.com. You can find a lot of people out there to conquer your branded design projects. And great thing about that is you can see what they've done in the past. So you can find the perfect designer with the best experience and the best design capabilities, the best fit your needs. So that's a great tool to utilize. There's plenty of more out there too that you can find. Or if you know a freelancer, that's also great to know, great to have too. They have a lot more. They have a lot of experience to give advice. If you're a freelance graphic designer, you should have a fair amount of history behind your back with designing logos, branding. So they should have a lot of the experience and answers that you'll have when trying to figure out your branding image. And they should also provide you a better looking, more professional looking logo than if you're trying to conquer yourself. They'll have the tools, the Adobe programs to create the logo, make it look professional, and also provide you with all the file types that you'll ever need. The negative with it is you will need to trust a complete stranger. If you go through a platform like Upwork, you just talk back and forth with the person and hope that they provide you with the right proper logo and all exactly what you're looking for. If you go through an program like Upwork.com or a platform like that, the good thing about that is they can't just run off with your money. You work with the system, and they can't get paid unless they provide you with exactly what you want. So that is an added plus to that. Again, with the freelancer, it is very important to kind of look around to find the designer that best fits what you're looking for. Not all designers can design what you have in mind. I know I can't. I've seen amazing logos out there that just aren't my style or my expertise performing. And if you looked at my portfolio on it, you can see exactly what my expertise is with designing the logos. If you're looking for like a hand drawn, very artistic looking logo, I'm not the guy, and you will quickly realize that. And I will not tell you I'm the guy either, or else we would both be wasting each other's time. So really make sure you find the perfect graphic designer that best fits the look that you really want to go with. With an agency, pros is they have a lot of experience. Chances are they have a whole team of graphic designers, and there's bound to be one in there that best fits the one that you're looking for. So it's it's a one-stop shop that they can find exactly what you need. They also can offer a lot of other services to you, creating a website, social media, uh, print, really anything you name it. They could definitely help you out to design it. And that's really great for if you don't really have a lot of time to kind of look for multiple stops for all these different things to check off your list. If you go to one agency, make a logo, and they offer all these other services, you build a rapport with them. They know exactly what you're looking for. They know exactly your brand standards, and they can definitely create all your materials to fit your new brand and image, essentially. But along with that, they can also be quite expensive. Not all of them are, but if you are looking for a crazy amount of materials all at once, crazy like eccentric like design work, it could definitely add up for sure, especially if you don't know what you're looking for or change your mind towards the middle of it, because that just adds up to more time and really can add up to a higher cost than you're really originally were planning. So with those options, and when you're looking for a designer, definitely make sure you ask good questions. I've, with all the projects I've worked on, as I kind of work along more and more, I kind of get more questions in my repertoire to start asking clients to, one, get a better understanding of what they're looking for, and two, not to create something that's completely wrong and waste everyone else's time. So, but also being on the other end of it, I've also looked for freelance graphic designers to kind of help me out with stuff that I just didn't have the time for. So it's kind of good to get both viewpoints of that. And one of the big questions is really looking at their past projects, asking for a portfolio, asking for what certain examples of past projects that they've done that's really related to you. So if I was to ask them to do a food logo for my pickles, I would ask them, hey, like, have you ever worked on food label or food logos, food labels, food packaging as well too? If so, can I see some of your past projects? And they should have no problem with that. That way you can see exactly their style, what they're capable of, their experience. And that's a great way of kind of weeding them out, of seeing if they are up for the task and can provide you exactly what you're looking for, or if you need to kind of look around still to find that perfect graphic designer. Asking for the time frame of your project, how long they think it'll take to come up with, let's say, a logo design. It's really key to figure out if it's going to take them a couple hours, a day. It should only take them about 4 hours. If you're 2 to 4 hours max, if you are shopping around. But with 2 to 4 hours, that could still be in a couple days if they are busy. But overall, it should only take about 2 to 4 hours, unless it's something crazy in your logo design. But to kind of really break down on that time frame, really kind of ask them questions about the steps through the project. When you should get your first proof, how many rounds of edits do you get, what files are you going to get afterwards, are they going to come up with a branding guide for you? Really kind of dive deep to figure out what their process is and what you should be expecting from them as well. And to save you time and money, really kind of give them good direction. I know this is, if you're looking to get your logo made, you might not have all the answers to it. So really kind of giving good direction might not really be in the stage that you are right now, but really anything that you have is better than not giving them to them. But if you find a good designer, they should lead the discussion for you to really help you answer these questions and to get exactly what they need from you. So don't just be discouraged if you don't think you're ready to look for a designer. If you find one, if you have a style in mind, you find one, it should work out if going back and forth of figuring out what you need. So once the project is done, you're good. You love the logo or the banner or whatever you're looking for at this point. Make sure you ask for finished files. JPEG, PNG, and EPS are usually the essentials that you ask for. If you're getting your brand completely done, renewed, definitely see if you can try to get a one-page branding guide from. This would just be a logo, font, colors, all on one sheet. A lot of companies that are very have a lot more branding involved in it. This could be like a 20-page process, but you definitely don't need that. One page is helpful for knowing exactly what your image looks like, and also if you're planning on doing more marketing outside of what they're doing, then you can keep it all looking the same and consistent too. So here's an example of a branding guide that I did for myself. It shows the logos I made, the fonts that I use, and also the colors that I use for everything. Excuse me. So these are the top ones are colors in the logo, and the bottom ones are the colors I use for all my labels. So this way, if I'm doing a digital ad or making a banner, I need to make more labels, and I have to go somewhere else. I know exactly what font to use, the color code to use it, and also I can just grab the logo straight out of here and put it on there too. So this way I know that the labels, everything that I'm making will stay looking the same and consistent. So, and that's one of the big things that I try to promote with people using their new branding and their little logo is really make sure you're implementing it correctly. I've seen quite a few companies where they go through all the trouble of getting their logo made, getting the colors made, really getting this really nice image made that really represents their company really well. And then down the road, they'll kind of weave off and like, oh, I kind of like they see a design that they like that has nothing to do with their company branding, or they'll create a brand new logo just for one product because it looks cooler on there. And when you do that, it really throws off your target audience. You're kind of breaking that brand awareness and essentially kind of creating crossroads that don't lead up back to your company. So for your new branding and your new logos, you really want to make sure you one, do use it for everything and anything, but two, also make sure you're using it properly and um, consistently throughout everything. Colors, logo, font, those are three big things that you want to make sure that are staying the same throughout everything. Website, social media, labels, banners, apparel, uh, handouts, stickers, anything. If it's digital, print, really just make sure you're using the same colors, logo, and font, and you'll be golden. That'll help your brand awareness by so much, and that's how you start getting these customers to come back and recognizing you when you come out with new products and everything. So I can't stress that enough on how important that is. Again, stay consistent with everything. That's really, if I had to really highlight one thing, that would be it from this whole presentation, is stay consistent with your branding. Really get to know your branding, the ins and outs of it, what it looks like, what it doesn't look like, and really stay on that. Now, I mean, obviously you can try new things, like a new background design for social media or whatever. That's no problem. But if you stay focus on the three important things of logo, color, and font, you should be golden. So this is what I've done with my branding sense, with labels, social media posts, business cards, apparel, my farmer's market stand. I really try to stay consistent with it. As you can see with the labels, they all have a consistent look. The only thing different is the color that really distinguishes the different products available for it, but they all still look consistently the same, which really helps with that brand awareness. So with all that, I was going to open up for questions, but afterwards, if you do have questions about like your brand, of what you should do, what you shouldn't do, have questions about the graphic designer you're working with, or if you are looking for a graphic designer, like Ryan said, I work at Allegra here in Grand Rapids. It's a digital and print company, so we do literally everything from logos to apparel to print to social media to websites. So if you do need help with anything, feel free to reach out to me. Chances are you'll you'll probably work with me there. So don't hesitate to reach out even if you have just the smallest question. So that's why I'm here. So thanks for listening.
Awesome, man. Bobby, thank you so much for participating. That was a great presentation. Yeah. So we do have a couple of questions that came through. Again, please, everyone, if you do have a question for Bobby, feel free to put that into the comments section on YouTube there. But to start off with, Mark Elliott is wondering, what are some of the most popular and potentially overused branding styles going on today? That's a great question. Are there certain trends that you see that are kind of like, that's definitely mid 2000s or that's 2020?
For sure. That is a very good question. One of the ones that was always a pet peeve of mine was the papyrus font. I saw that. I don't know if I've seen it quite as much now, but that always drove me nuts. I used to see that everywhere, especially for companies that it just didn't fit. What's another good one? One that I have been noticing, which isn't a bad thing, is cleaner labels. As I'm kind of looking more for logos that are coming out nowadays, a lot of them are starting to stick with a more cleaner font, cleaner looking style, not having a lot of elements involved in it. If you kind of look back like early '90s, like they threw everything at it, retro colors, bold lettering, just busy as like anything you could throw in it, they would. But now it seems to kind of go towards the cleaner label for sure. Trying to think of. I know I'm going to think of a bunch of them as soon as I get off this. One of the things, if you do see one that I really wish I had an example that's kind of more modern, more coming up with the trends now. I mean, nothing wrong with it, but just keep in mind, in 10 years or so, like it will probably go away. So don't really bank your branding idea based on a design that's popular now. I really wish I could think of one right now, but
sure.
Yeah.
So do you have any advice on, so let's say a company, for instance, that slide that you had, Target, Nike, those are very simplistic symbols. Do you have any advice for entrepreneurs that may want, is it a good idea to have something more elaborate, or does it really depend on your product? Does it depend on your overall branding?
Yeah, I mean, for example, like those companies that I showed you guys, their logo essentially is a symbol with their name on it. So they could easily just use their symbol for their branding, and obviously it's working effectively. That's always great to have. Kind of gives you a little bit more wiggle room of what you kind of can do with your logo. But I don't know if it's absolutely necessary, but if you can definitely pull it off, kind of find like a niche, something that you can create for your logo that only represents your logo. I think that's definitely a positive to have for sure.
Sure. So another quick question here. So what is typically the hourly rate for a freelancer via Upwork? Is there kind of a norm, or is it depend on the work needed? Oh,
Can you hear me?
You good?
I think so. Good.
Yeah, awesome. No problem. Let me quickly re-ask that there. What is the typical hourly rate for a freelancer via Upwork? Is there kind of a norm, or does it really depend?
Really, it really all depends. You can either do it when you post it on Upwork, you can just put your project and people will bid on it. Really, you can do it either. My budget is $200 and people will bid on that, so it's like straight up $200 for it, or you can charge someone an hourly rate, which I would shoot for people between probably 40 to $50 an hour. There are some much higher than that, but there's also some much lower than that. And I always, steer caution into going either way on that. But I think $40 an hour for sure. 40 to 50 is definitely a good range for sure.
Sure. Do you have any advice for, let's say, an entrepreneur? They've been around for a year or two, and they're just not seeing the traction that they want to see. Their social media is doing well, their sales are doing okay, but they just really haven't gone to that next level, and they want to rebrand. Is there ever a time where you suggest that? And if so, can you kind of elaborate on how you would approach that type of situation?
Yeah. There's always times that people will need to rebrand their image for sure. I mean, it depends how long you wait for it. If the longer you wait, obviously the more work is going to be involved into rebranding it. And I guess really all depends how accentuate you want to go with it as well too. But if you rebrand, then you're kind of, you gotta reprint everything with the new logo. But it also gives you a fresher look. So let's say, for instance, you started your company back in early 2000. You used the papyrus font. You realize now everyone back then used it. Avatar, he gets it. Everyone starts using it, and then all of a sudden, just like the coolness of it just goes away. And then, now it's 2021. You're like a lot of people are using cleaner fonts, cleaner logos. Let's try and come up with a symbol that best represents us and use a cleaner font. Then I think I mean it's definitely worth looking into for sure. If you really need to update your logo and you think that's the cost, I don't think you should wait until it's much later for sure.
Sure. I think the world of logos specifically is funny. It's a lot like food, where it's kind of cyclical. At some point it will be outdated, but then at some point it'll be retro and nostalgic at the same time.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. So I mean, you could hold off until that time comes back in 40 years, but
hopefully you're still around in 40 years.
Exactly. Yeah, if you're still around, then you're probably fine.
Sure. So do you have any last pieces of advice before we sign off tonight? Whether it be towards branding or logo work, or tying everything in together with social media, all this stuff. Any last pieces of advice, all those entrepreneurs out there?
I would suggest, like I said, with me starting off the company, I have the huge list of 1,000,001 things that need to be conquered, and I need to weed them out, from priorities and everything. Definitely put the logo on top of your list. And if I know, for me, I wanted to see how many of the things on the list I could do myself, so I can save myself money. I don't think this should be one of those. You can work within any of your budget. You don't have to spend a crazy amount, but the amount you spend on it, it'll go a long way for sure. And it's essentially just a one-time spend, really. So once you get that professional looking logo, then you just, you use it and keep using it and using it. Whereas if you try it yourself, then it might not go well. For instance, a lot of my accounting on my list, I have no idea. I'm awful at it. I know I'm awful at it, and so I was like, I'm gonna get someone that can do this for me.
Sure. Yeah, that's definitely taking especially that startup capital and knowing where to allocate it for sure. Well, Bobby, thank you again so much for all the expertise and for sharing your wisdom tonight. If anybody out there wants to try Urban Pickle, definitely head to Fulton Street Farmers Market, try his stuff out. I'm still excited for the Inferno pickles. I can't wait for those.
I'm excited for those to come back out too. It's going to be huge this year for those for sure.
Definitely. Well, again, thanks a lot again, Bobby. And for all of you out there, definitely make sure to keep your ear to the ground for the next Culinary Conversations event. And we will see all of you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.